Hello everybody, my name is Paul Buitink and welcome to our weekly show about Bitcoin, gold, the future of money and much more. I'm very pleased to have both Koos Jansen and Tuur Demeester on our show today. Koos is a widely respected gold expert who writes for bullionstar.com and Tuur is a renowned economist. Both need no further introduction. Today it's all about the gold repatriation movement, Russia, Bitcoin and the new financial order. Viewers can ask questions using the Q&A tool. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel on YouTube and follow us on Google+, so you never miss a single episode. Koos, let's just jump right into the action. What's the whole gold repatriation movement all about, and why does it matter?
Well, it matters because it seems like a global phenomenon at this stage, and it matters because since 1944, it was the beginning of Bretton Woods. The world sort of agreed the United States dollar was the world reserve currency, and ever since it has been. But since 2008, some people began to doubt about the status of the world of the US dollar, and of course the United States is printing a lot of dollars. We can see a lot of dysfunction in the system happening in the last couple of years. And a lot of countries, not only China, Russia, but also Europe and other countries are worried about what is coming next, or they are preparing for what is coming next. And they are all grasping, or they're all looking to their gold to, because most likely gold is going to be a new anchor in the system. As we might know, but maybe not the viewers, a complete fiat standard is not sustainable. I mean, maybe robots can use it longer than we, but we humans, it's just so seductive to print unlimited amounts of money that that it won't work, and it destroys capitalism, so to say. So you can see all these bubbles and errant capital fleeing around the world, and money printing happening on all continents. And in this environment, we can see a very clear reaction of a lot of countries towards gold. So, of course, we know the Chinese hunger towards gold is immense. We don't really know for sure how much the PBOC is buying, because that's probably the best kept secret on earth. But you know, a lot of professionals, analysts, they estimate they have about 4,000 tons right now. We can see Russia, that's the most aggressive buyer officially at the moment. They buy, well, I think about 20 tons a month. I don't know. They're almost reaching 1,100 tons right now. And the most significant part now is that Western countries in Europe are also physically repatriating their gold from England and from New York, the Federal Reserve Bank in New York, and that is Germany and the Netherlands, and also other countries like Belgium, Austria, and we know now that Australia has also done an audit at the Bank of England. I published today. So all these Western countries are also expressing their the value they attach to gold, or repatriating. So this global phenomenon is accelerating also. I mean, first it was only Venezuela, then Germany stepped in, and now almost every month or every week we hear a story of a country that is, you know, in politics they're discussing it, or they're admitting they have been auditing gold in England or in the United States. Or
so it's like the game of musical chairs, where the music is about to end and people are rushing toward the chair.
Yeah, and the fact that it's accelerating, it's quite significant, I think. And also the thing is that when the Dutch example was astonishing, I think, because they suddenly announced they had repatriated 122 tons from New York. So first of all, this is an immense way of saying we don't trust you towards the United States. And second, we must consider that or contemplate that in the past 2 years, the Dutch National Bank, DNB, the Nederlandse Bank, the central bank here, prepared this repatriation. I did some analysis on this, and in 2012, the governor of the central bank in the Netherlands said in a TV show, "There's nothing wrong with our gold in the United States. It's safe there. We're not going to repatriate." And I have evidence that a few months after that was broadcasted, the Dutch central bank made a second line of defense around their compound, around the central banks, with enormous stone blocks, and this was done.
How do you know that? What kind of evidence do you have about this?
Well, I have published it on my blog, and I've called the Dutch central bank, and I said yes, that's true. At the end of 2012. I mean, I live around the corner of this central bank, and I saw it. And when the repatriation was published, all the pieces of the puzzle came together, and so they confirmed this to me. At the end of 2012, they built this security barrier with stone rock blocks to keep cars and trucks from entering the building. Then I heard from a source, this is anecdotal stuff, but I heard from a source that in 2013 a delegation of the Dutch central bank went to New York to audit the gold in the vaults of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. The Americans showed the Dutch delegation a pile of gold and said, this belongs to you. Then in the summer of 2014, you could call it a military action, was prepared, and then in October and November, all the gold in several shipments, 122 tons, was repatriated from New York to Amsterdam. This is amazing. What my analysis from the sources I have. I could be wrong, but you know, it fits together. But we'll see at the end of this month, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York publishes their numbers about their total deposits they hold for foreign accounts. So we can know sort of what happened, how much Germany took out, how much the Netherlands took out.
Right. Like a few years ago, I was looking into the balance sheet of the Dutch Central Bank, and then there was no information about where they store the gold. So I had the Socialist Party in Holland ask questions to the Minister of Finance and also to the central bank as to the whereabouts of the gold. And eventually they came up with these locations, and then we kept on pushing, and then eventually the Socialist Party kept on asking questions about like shouldn't we get the gold back, and almost shortly thereafter they started repatriating the gold apparently. So that's quite an interesting story. It almost reads like a book. So Tuur, is it also is in Belgium also something going on like this or not?
You mean with gold repatriation?
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge. I think there was some. I think the central bank admitted to where the gold was stored. Something about 2 years ago. They said that about 40%, but this is just from memory. About 40% was held abroad. I think I remember that being like something new. But apart from that, I don't remember anything happen recently. By the way, for the listeners out there who are mostly into Bitcoin, haven't heard of Koos Jansen, I just really want to highly recommend his work. Do follow him on Twitter. Read his research. It's one of the most no nonsense and thorough that's out there. If you're interested in gold and the future of fiat currency, I think it's essential. So thanks, Koos, for being on the show. I think it's fantastic work you do.
Thank you very much, Tuur, for the recommendation.
Yeah, really good. And Koos, what about Germany then? Because Holland did this stealth action and got a lot of gold back, more than 100 tons, as far as I remember. And then the Germans, they only got back a very meager amount of just 5 tons in 2013. And then there were some news headlines that they wanted to stop the repatriation. Bloomberg misquoted a few people. So tell me a bit more about the German repatriation, and is it still going on?
It's definitely still going on. Indeed, Bloomberg published a story, and it was very misleading. Their motives are left for speculation, but everybody read the article as if Germany stopped repatriating the gold. So Germany had a program in, let's say in 2013, of repatriating 300 tons of gold from New York. And Bloomberg said somewhere mid-2014, Germany will stop repatriating, and the German government has full confidence in the Americans. They never stopped. It's really easy. If you go to the website of the Bundesbank, you see a lot of phone numbers and email addresses of the press department. You give them a ring and you confirm it by email. They said to me, we never stopped repatriating, so they are still repatriating. It is, of course, a big question why the Germans take so long about repatriating gold, because obviously you can do it in a quite short time. I mean, some people say it takes a very long time to ship a few hundred tons of gold, but in 2013 China imported 1,500 tons of gold, so that's possible, and I don't know why you couldn't, with a few airplanes and with a small group of people, repatriate a few hundred tons in a few months.
So what do you think is the real reason then? Why is Germany taking so much time? You think they understand that they know there's not enough, and what's the whole reasoning behind Germans being so slow?
I think gold is a political metal, and I've spoken to Peter Boehringer, who is the founder of Repatriate Our Gold. That's the German initiative that in 2011 pushed the central bank to repatriate gold, and then they went ahead and repatriated. I must add that the Germans also repatriated about 950 tons from London in, I believe it was 2001, completely in secret. And they told us this just 2 years ago, I believe. But to come back to your question, why Germany isn't speeding up their repatriation, what Peter Boehringer, he's of course, I think an insider in Germany, he's telling me that the Bundesbank doesn't want to repatriate as fast. And apparently the Dutch did want to repatriate really fast. And that's the whole difference. I mean, maybe the Germans want to keep the Americans as friends, or it's a bit sensitive, or I don't know.
But normally they have the same policy, right? Because in the old days the guilder was pegged to the more or less pegged to the mark, and they usually also in the ECB Council they speak with one mouth, the Germans and the Dutch.
Yes, that's correct.
And we know for sure that the Dutch were preparing for a breakup of the euro, because the Minister of Finance, I believe they admitted that there was a plan B. So do you think the Dutch are getting the gold back in order to prepare for a northern euro or for the return of the guilder?
I wouldn't say so. We do know now. I think some Dutch politicians or other politicians think the euro crisis is over, or I don't know, but apparently they thought it was wise to come out with this news. Yeah, we have stories from our Minister of Finance, Dijsselbloem, and a former Minister of Finance, De Jager, who confirmed that in 2012, when the euro crisis was at its peak, the Netherlands and also Germany were preparing for everything. So, and that included to be able to fall back on another currency if the euro would break. And I don't think those plans are in the bucket or in the shredder right now. So it's just, but it's all, you know, you can just see the problems and the tensions grow, and it's only wise to get your gold back. I'm not sure if the Netherlands and Germany are preparing for a northern euro. I think they want to stick with the rest of Europe, but why not just repatriate and be on the safe side? And that's what they're doing. And because there's also something which is called the Washington Agreement. It has been signed in 1999. And it was a cooperation between nearly all European central banks. As you know, maybe a lot of European central banks sold a lot of gold in between 1990 and now. And to do this in a sort of in a managed fashion together, they signed the Central Bank Agreement of Gold, I believe it's called, the Washington Agreement. So these European central banks, which are also, of course, in the euro, they are on the same line. So and add to that in 2011, the Jager, that is the former Minister of Finance of the Netherlands, was asked in 2011, why did the Netherlands sell so much gold prior to, let's say, the year 2000 or 2005? And he said, we sold about 1,100 tons to equalize our holdings to other important gold holding nations. So this kind of makes you wonder in what degree this was all orchestrated, this equalization or redistribution of gold. But all these clues are interesting if we look at the future monetary system and at what part gold is going to play in this.
Yeah, now we got a few questions from Rico Brouwer. He asked, Germany was critical towards Russian sanctions early on in the Ukraine crisis. Now they appear more easygoing towards supporting U.S. anti-Russian initiatives. Does Koos feel a more Dutch approach with silent democracy might be going on with Germans getting gold?
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
I guess what he's trying to say is, do you think the Germans are using a sort of a more Dutch approach, which means like a sort of silent diplomacy to get the gold back, because they know the hard approach is maybe not going to work for Germany, as they are maybe too big to use that approach.
That could be. Of course, Germany is a powerhouse in the world, and it would be. And there's a lot more gold at stake. I think Germany has more than 1,000 tons of gold abroad. So if they would repatriate all their gold, it would be we talk about a lot more gold. So things for Germany. Germany is an elephant, and they have to move more slowly. So it can be that they, for political reasons, choose to take it easy and do it step by step. And But I don't know what's happening behind closed doors. But what is also interesting is that like Australia, I just published something about Australia. Their annual report just came out of the central bank from Australia, and they noted that they did an audit at the Bank of England in the past few months. So we don't know how many countries are auditing gold now in England and in New York. And there can be so much more at play at the moment.
Yeah, so it's something that I don't know if everybody's aware, but like how, at least this was something new to me when I did my research, is how often these central bankers meet internationally. I mean, it's a very small club of people. They all know each other. I would think once the word goes around and it becomes a trend to start auditing your gold, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more countries than what we're publicly aware of so far. Something I was wondering about is about Germany. It seems to me that it's somewhat of a public secret how fragile the German financial system is. If you look at Deutsche Bank, it's the biggest bank in Europe, and it's also the most leveraged bank in Europe. And so I was curious, Koos, do you think it's possible that there is somewhat of a tit for tat going on between Germany and the U.S. in that, the U.S. because of they basically they're boss of the dollar and of a lot of financial assets, that they might cut a deal with the German central bank, like if we make it easy for you financially to kind of keep these problems somewhat under control in your financial system, in your banking system, maybe in return you guys can put less pressure on us to repatriate your gold. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, that could be. I think that's how the world works. Also, if you diplomatic documents are always released 30 years after date. So if you read back now diplomatic documents from the 70s, this is exactly how central bankers communicate with each other. It's just dealings, and the example you just described can be really can be the case. I also think that, of course, these central bankers talk to each other even stronger. They all meet at the Bank of International Settlements in Basel quite often, and there are no journalists allowed there, no other politicians, no ministers of finance. I even believe it's a separate country, this little building. So of course these central bankers talk to each other, and you can also ask yourself why the gold price is so low and China is allowed to buy so much. That can be because, of course, the United States and China also have a really strong trade relationship, and they're in a marriage. And you know, the United States has a lot of debt, and they want to devalue the dollar, but China has 4 trillion in dollar reserves, and they don't want to see those reserves devalued. So, but they control, so to say, the United States. I mean, Russia called China in the heat of the moment in 2008, and Russia said to China, let's pull the plug out of the dollar. And then China said, no, we're not going to do that because it would evaporate our savings. But they told this to America. China said to America later on, look, we saved your ass, and we can stop buying treasuries, we can dump them, we can do whatever we like. Sure, we can take some pain, but China has a lot of control over the United States, so who knows what the deals are between them. So to come back to your question, I can't answer it, but I think the world works like this, and of course it's all making deals between central bankers and politicians.
And talking a bit more about Russia, Koos, then, since you already addressed it briefly, what's going on with the ruble right now, and how does that relate to gold? I saw today on Zero Hedge that Russia apparently is starting to sell gold, which is sort of counter to what I thought they were doing. Could you elaborate a little bit on the Russian situation?
Yeah, that's. I heard the Russians were selling gold about a week ago when Yahoo came out with an article. And then we have another great Dutch analyst here. He's called Frank Knopers. He wrote an article about it, and he checked the facts, and it wasn't true. So I'm not so sure if Russia is really selling gold. Also, given the fact they have been they're the most aggressive buyers of gold in the last couple of years. I mean, they buy gold and publish it on their website every month. So I'm not sure if they are selling gold. They also have a lot of dollars. Why not first sell some more dollars? I believe they have $450 billion in reserves. Yeah. So I'm not sure if they're selling gold. I don't think so, actually. We have to be careful in the media war now. I think Russia's under attack. There are WikiLeaks documents from 5 years ago which state that Russia wouldn't feel comfortable if NATO would move more towards the Ukraine. And Russia expressed in those, it was at a NATO meeting, I believe. Well, I'm sorry, I don't know this for sure, so I'm not going to say it. But in these WikiLeaks documents, you can find them on my website, Russia has stated that if NATO would move more towards the Ukraine, it would be a very sensitive development, and there could be civil unrest or even a civil war in the Ukraine. And what do you know? Exactly, this is happening. And I think, who is the biggest beneficiary of the whole Ukraine crisis and of MH17? So I'm sorry, I have to speculate a lot this broadcast, but it's the United States who was the biggest beneficiary. You now see a breakup between Russia and Europe. They're both suffering from it. I mean, here in the Netherlands, we export a lot of milk and vegetables and fruit towards Russia, and so we're hurt. Obviously, the Russians are hurt. So I think, and Janet Yellen yesterday said at the meeting that the ruble tumbled because oil prices dropped. Well, yeah, oil dropped, but I don't see all the other oil exporting nations collapsing right now, or their currencies. Maybe a little bit, but not to the degree which the ruble is collapsing. So I think the United States has an interest in divide and conquer. I don't know the details, but obviously, and also Putin today said in his press conference that the whole crisis was provoked by who he didn't say, but we all know what he meant.
So fast forward in 6 months, or maybe even less, what's going to be the outcome? Are we going to see an uprising of the Russian people, because possibly that's something that the US is after, to wage economic warfare, hoping that the people will kind of, with their empty stomachs, will revolt against the Russian leaders, and then they have another breakup of Russia. What's the outcome of this game? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, the only I think about it is that 95% of the Russian people love Putin. My girlfriend is Russian, and so I get some sources from Russia, and she can translate some things for me. The people love Putin, and if you look back since he came in power, which is probably 15 years ago, he really did a lot for the country. He lowered the national debt in terms of percentage of debt towards GDP. He's maybe not democratically chosen, but the people love him. So I don't think there's going to be a revolution in Russia like we saw in the Ukraine or in Hong Kong. Which no, I don't think so.
Right. And Tuur, what do you think? What will be the impact on Bitcoin? The Bitcoin price has been going down a lot. I would expect, with currency crisis like we see now in Russia, that people would use Bitcoin possibly as a vehicle to keep their wealth out of the system, possibly ordinary Russians, for example. But I'm not seeing that. I think is what's going on.
Yeah, well, first of all, I do think when people look at ways to protect themselves against capital controls, they do also look at the value of the asset. And Bitcoin has been in a downtrend for the past 11, 12 months. So obviously, I think that it's just logical that there wouldn't be like an immediate spike. But I do think there is increased interest in Bitcoin. We see that definitely happen in Russia. What was I going to say? I think in general what we're seeing with this oil crisis is how fragile fiat currencies really are. If you just take a look at the foreign exchange reserves of several oil exporting countries, they're really under pressure. Like Australia, now only 60 billion, down from 80 billion in 2007. Russia was at 500 billion in 2007, now only 450. Argentina, $50 billion in forex reserves in 2007. Now it's below 30 billion. Venezuela, obviously, also in big trouble. And these, simply put, the foreign exchange reserves are the money that the central bank uses to defend the value of the local currency. So once that runs out, the game is up, and you have hyperinflation. It's as simple as that. And so we're really seeing now with the oil crash, everything is shifting. And a lot of currencies that looked like they were quite strong, like in Norwegian krona, for example, it's really they're hurting really badly. And you can see people on the internet, just regular people, that are now trying to find a solution for what to do with their savings. So I think this really is going to be a huge boost for Bitcoin. I think first we're going to see some more smart money move into Bitcoin. That's already happening because offshore bank accounts are not what they used to be as well. And people say that Bitcoin is not anonymous, but if you hold it in an offshore company, or if you have some kind of solid construction that's legally sound, then even if governments can identify that it might be yours, they still cannot take it. Then they cannot pressure an institution to take that money from you. So I think this is going to be the fuel behind the next big rally in Bitcoin. Bitcoin as a safe haven asset, and Bitcoin as unconfiscatable money.
Can I ask Tuur something, Paul?
Sure.
So I was wondering, I think we both agree on the fact that the current monetary system and fiat money is not sustainable for humanity, and we probably move towards a new system, and maybe it's gold, maybe it's Bitcoin, I don't know. What I found really interesting is that now a couple of companies are linking gold to Bitcoin. So they make sort of, I saw one thing popping by, which was called BitGold. Isn't this the ultimate solution? Because you have all the advantages of gold and all the advantages of Bitcoin, or am I missing something?
Well, I do think we will see like the rise of like blockchain technology will go into all areas of finance, and that will include asset exchange. It will include oil markets, gold markets. So you will have like commodity contracts that are traded on blockchain networks. So Bitcoin-like networks. It could be on the Bitcoin network. It could be via a side chain that they make colored coins, what it's called. So I do think that's definitely going to happen because it's much more robust. Also to keep public records, it's a very robust and cheap system to do that. As far as like choosing a gold-backed cryptocurrency over a purely digital cryptocurrency, I think there are some liability challenges. Because the gold that would back the BitGold, for example, would still need to be stored somewhere. There would still be these auditing requirements, and if that would become like a significant size, then likely you'll end up in vaults that are like Brinks or G4S, or like really widely known firms, widely known vaults, and then again, individuals are exposing themselves to these risks of confiscation, of theft. And Bitcoin itself, because it's so it's non-material, it can be stored anywhere, and I think that is what makes it more robust in the long run. I do think that gold is going to shine as a debt settlement asset, especially between governments over the next decades, for sure. But as far as money goes, I don't see a significant advantage to choose physical gold, even if it's traded on a blockchain ledger, over a purely digital asset. But I mean, obviously, I would love for the market to decide. I mean, let 1,000 flowers blossom and let people come up with systems like BitGold, and there's also several Bitcoin gold exchanges, so people will be able to go from Bitcoin to gold very easily in the future, even today already. So I think that's really, really exciting. I think we can just agree that centrally planned paper money is just a very, very bad idea.
Yeah, that's correct. I would just, you know, the thing I always, from my economic perspective, I highly encourage Bitcoin because it's a free market development. This is, you know, the free market always thinks of something that, you know, works best for everybody. You can't think about this by the government or. But of course, I guess it was in 2011, I lost 5 Bitcoins, and this is something. You know, Bitcoins can vanish. That's the thing, right. You know. So it's also the beauty because it's so it doesn't weigh anything. You can transport unlimited amounts of capital to the other side of the world. And on the other hand, I think, you know, the vaults like Brinks and G4S, as long as it's in the private sector, you know, these companies are competitive, so they have to be trustworthy.
Yeah, but goes in the end, it's about who has the keys, right? And even though they're private companies, when they're based in a certain jurisdiction, eventually it's the sovereign of that jurisdiction that can confiscate the keys and open the vaults.
That's true. That's true.
And that's what I like about Bitcoin. If you look at because yeah, if you don't trust yourself to not lose Bitcoins, you can work with Bitcoin banks. And there's a lot of competition there, and what you can do with Bitcoin that's impossible with gold is you can work with multi-sig transactions. So you can store maybe access to the Bitcoins are only possible if you have 2 keys out of 3 in total. So 1 key is given to you, Koos, the customer, and then 2 keys are stored in separate jurisdictions. So even if there's, and you can make systems that are like 5 signatures out of 7, or whichever combination you like. So it's possible to make to really make bitcoins, even if they're stored by a third party, unconfiscatable from a political perspective. And I think that's really exciting because it means that you can really just trust the company to do the procedures right, and at a low, even at a low storage fee, because the only thing you need is a couple of USB sticks stored in a vault somewhere. Yeah, I think that's really exciting. But then on the other hand, if you say, well, I like something in my own hands, and I like something that's solid and real, you can, I mean, this is obviously maybe a bit of an outlandish idea, but you can take a tungsten bar and engrave your private key into that, and then bury that in your yard. I mean, that's going to be hard to lose. But it is a way to physically store your bitcoins for, if you want, for generations. So, like, I mean, I think it's important to also acknowledge that bitcoins can be stored physically, that they can actually take the form that we like about gold. But, you know, still, I think gold is scarce, and that's why it has value. It has a 6,000-year-long tradition, so I definitely don't... I highly recommend gold as an investment. I just don't know, like, if we're talking 100 years from now, whether it will be the bedrock of the financial system still. That I'm not sure about.
Do you think there's a possibility there can be a system of gold being the store of value and Bitcoin the medium of exchange?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's possible. I just don't know which one is going to win in the market.
Of the cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have a free market between currencies, just like in the information markets used to be incredibly centralized with only like radio and television, and then with the internet, everything just exploded, and anybody could just, like, you have your own news website. Paul has his news website. It's just completely exploded, and some of the old values are still accessible. That you have old style type journalism still accessible, but there's a whole variety of other ways. And I think in the same way, old style gold money and gold banking and gold contracts will have their role. I just think it won't be as central to the world as it is today. But I do think gold in the next few years is going to have a very important role to play, for sure, in with the current environment that you're describing so brilliantly on your blog.
Right. So kind of to wrap up then, guys. Basically, we all are in favor of monetary diversity and a free market. So a lot of different types of money can blossom and flourish. So I think these are good words to end the show with. So Koos, first of all, thank you very much for being on the show, and tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I write for billionstar.com. It's just billionstar.com, and you can buy some gold or silver, or you can go to my blog and read my latest research. My company is based in Singapore, which has really good environment for gold storage and gold purchases. No taxes whatsoever. The government is really in favor of gold. Also, my company has 0 storage fees until 2016 because there is no crime. We can offer this. So go to Billionstar website.
Is the storage? Can I ask the storage? Is it in the free trade zone?
No, the free trade zone is something in China. That is in Shanghai, and Singapore is a different country across the pond, so to say.
I remember researching Malka Amit, and I thought there was a special zone within Singapore that their vault in specific was located in, but I could be confused.
Oh, well, maybe you're right, and I don't know it. Malka Amit has a lot of vaults across Asia, and I know they recently, about a year ago, opened one. It was in October 2013, opened one in the free trade zone of Shanghai, a very large capacity vault, so maybe it's that one. I don't know of any free trade zone in Singapore, actually.
I'll look it up, and it's likely that I'm mistaken. So I'll
find it out.
I was curious.
Okay, thanks, and thank you too, Tuur. People can find you best on Twitter, right? @Tuur Demeester.
Yes, and there is news in the make, but it'll be likely a few months. But I'm really excited. I'm going to be active in different ways in the Bitcoin sphere early 2015.
So it's Tuur's return to the Bitcoin community then, because you had a sabbatical for a few months. Perfect. Okay. Well, this show will not be. We're not going to host the show for the next 2 weeks because of Christmas and New Year's, but we'll be back the 8th of January with Andreas Antonopoulos as our main guest. So I'm very much looking forward to that one. So thank you guys, and see you next time.
Thank you guys.